Hi, my name is Mark Biernot. I'm a monetary economist. In this video, I want to talk about the end of Russia in its current format. It may exist, but it's going to be reformatted. And there's three components to this discussion. There's one, I'll just call it oil. Two, geopolitical. And three, the third component is karmic. Stay tuned for the last part because I think you might find it most interesting. The first part is oil. How much oil does the world have in reserve based on current consumption and known reserves? 47 years, right? That's not a lot of time. Could be less. 47 years is not even, it's like half a lifetime. It's not a lot of time. So humans, the clever people that we are constantly mitigating. And an example, not to discuss the entire geopolitical elasticities of oil and supply and demand. In my neighborhood, about 25% of the people are using solar. And I, even myself, am a cheapskate. I'm looking at do-it-yourself ways to install solar, at least to mitigate the largest component, which is the air conditioning for my house. I mean, I haven't used a gas-powered mower, and I live in Florida where the grass grows, basically overnight in 10 years. And not only that, electric car demand is increasing so exponentially. I wouldn't say exponentially, but logarithmically. I think it was like 23% in the last year or something, that I would say by 2030, as a guesstimate, back of the envelope calculation, we're talking 50% of the cars could be electric. And that's a guesstimate, don't hold me to it. So the point being, humans are mitigating away from non-renewable fossil fuels. And if Russia is 10%, only 10%, and these things are being vaporized because of the refinery, people are going to find other ways for fossil fuels and to circumvent the Russian cash cow. Right now, 33% of Russian oil is consumed by India, but that is also being addressed. And about 55% is China. And the Chinese may move away from that eventually when they find it in their best business interest. So Russia as a business model built this empire of oil and natural gas. And you can say, well, what about fertilizer? Fertilizer is just another derivative of this because fertilizer is composed of NPK. And I have a U.S. Department of Agriculture license. Technically, I guess I'm a PhD farmer type guy. Not exactly yet, but. So nitrogen comes from natural gas and other non-renewable extract. So does phosphorus and potassium, potash, phosphorus, obviously. This is exactly the same as just oil and gas. It's another thing. It's extraction and taking away from the earth. These things are going to be replaced by humanity. And stay tuned for the third part of this, and I'll explain why. So the Russian, let's say, cash cow is being taken away. And they have stocks estimated by, and I'll throw out a shout. If you go to Ukraine Matters, he said they have stocks till about 2026 of their current effort of what they're doing on the Eastern Front. Maybe 2025 it could run out. So they don't have a lot of time to replenish, if they're trying to continue with this perpetually. And you know what I'm talking about, the geopolitical conflict on their east. So their cash cow is running out. The world is going to mitigate it with solar, wind, and I hope fusion. People say fusion's not till 2050, but I think it's closer than that. I think they had some breakthroughs last year. And soon it will be like the typewriter. Yeah, it's an interesting footnote, historical footnote, but eventually, or coal, probably a better metaphor would be coal. It's not like, the world is powered by coal today. The second component is the geopolitical. Russia can't win because Ukraine is not going to lose. They've committed to that. It's an existential threat. They will fight. tooth and nail. And let's look at the numbers and statistics. If you're on the offensive, to get a defender to retreat, you need minimum 3-to-1 odds. Minimum. And the way the Russian tactics are, you need 4-to-1. For defender eliminated, you need 5 to 7-to-1. And that's in a traditional form. But if you look at the history and specifically Vietnam or others, you need 10 to 20 if you're fighting like in terms of partisans. That doesn't exist in terms of resources in Russia. If Ukraine doesn't get the aid from the West, they will take it up a notch. And I don't think anybody in the West wants to see that. Because again, Ukraine is very clever. I think the person with the highest IQ ever recorded came from Kiev, Ukraine. Ukraine, they're very clever. And if you back them into a corner, it's very variable and unpredictable what will happen. But Ukraine will not lose because they've stated they will not lose. And that's all there is to it. Now, the third component is the most interesting. I call it karmic. The collective unconsciousness of the Russian people understand that the business model and the current model, this 18th century, 19th century model of despotism, is not going to work for the continuation and the perpetuation of their genes. The demographics, this is human evolution. It's bigger than you and me and in the conscious minds. The genes want to replicate. And with the demographics declining in Russia and the brain drain, everybody's leaving Russia, the smart ones, the genes will somehow transmit a change to the brain and the collective unconsciousness. And the Russian people eventually won't take it anymore, even though they're propagandized and numbed. And you can say they're like, just following their leader like sheep over a cliff, or whatever metaphor you want to use. Eventually, the genes will rebel because the genes want to self-replicate. They want this human evolution to continue and existence to continue. And they will invoke change in Russia somehow. You'll see it. Again, this is more speculative. And the last component that is this karmic speculative is Putin is often, or Patriarch Cyril is putting himself as, Putin as, the defender like Saint Michael, the archangel. And once you do that and use religion to manipulate other people, it's a very grave blasphemy. Saint Michael is the defender of Kiev and Ukraine. And although the wheels of change are sometimes slow, because God does not violate the rules of the universe he creates, he sometimes throws the dice in places we're not looking. And karmically, it doesn't seem like that type of model is going to hold. If you ever saw Star Wars, the movie, there was always a battle on the ground and a battle at the higher level, the transcendent level. And Cyril and Putin's a non-believer like Lushenko, like Orban, stated clearly by Lushenko. This is not going to be allowed. Okay? So we've got oil and the cash cow being cut off. We've got Ukraine, very clever people not willing to submit. And we've got some karmic wheels in motion. So the net result is, in my opinion, Russia can last maybe to 2026. Let's say 2026. And that's not great news because that's a long time of suffering. But the world is gravitating to a better place. The genes of the world want self-replication. They want this world to continue and to improve. And so you're going to see big changes coming up in the future based on real, concrete economic and geopolitical action. But behind that, and again, it's more speculative, I don't want to say for fun because of the seriousness of this nature, but just as a thought experiment, maybe the genes and the desire for genes to self-replicate have a wisdom beyond something that our conscious minds understand. Anyway, I can't see Russia existing in its current format and expect it to be reformatted and hopefully to make the world a better place. My name is Mark Biernat. Thank you very much. Have a great day.